Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of Getting Close Up, the show focused on independent artists and creatives. I'm your host, Danielle Cox. And if you haven't done it already, I really don't know what's holding you up. Go ahead and join the GCU fam today by clicking the like button, subscribing, and making sure you ding the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We are closing out season 4 with an inspirational story of the true independent artist spirit. My friend left a 9 to 5 and home to travel to New York to make a name for himself. And I'm telling you, really, honestly, it's what most people that I've talked to aspire to, as far as making sure that they make a way for their gift. Today, we are getting close up with Lucas Carpenter. Hey.
Hi.
Hey, friend.
How are you?
I am good. How are you doing? I'm so glad to have you here.
I know. Thank you for having me.
And I see the baby in the
I
background.
wish I was with you on the couch.
I know.
On the chair.
Yeah, the purple chairs are so comfy. One day you will be in this chair.
I will.
And you'll be threatening to take it up out of here like most people do. I see the baby back there asleep on the bed.
I know.
Just being peaceful.
He's slumped. He's knocked out.
It did not take long. You and I go way back. We go way back.
Way back.
Back to the 9 to 5 that I was alluding to earlier in corporate America. And there's one thing that I don't think I ever asked you for real. Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back that made you say, you know what? F this, I'm out.
I think I had always had this inclination that I could do, and I wanted more. And it just kept popping up in my head, and as my career progressed through the company that we used to work for.
Yeah, who shall remain nameless.
And the people that we used to work for, especially, I was just like, it's not worth it. Like, I was stressed all the time, and once you get to the point where you're like, okay, it's not about the money, like, I'll be happier on less money. And I was too comfortable in the spot. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to head out.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm going to go ahead and let myself out.
Yeah.
And I know you've always been a musician. You've always been into photography. You started doing concert photography. And I feel like what I saw happening was you looked outside the box of your own life and was seeing it through the lens of what I'm doing versus what I want to do. I feel like that was really tugging on you. Tell me a little bit more about why you made the decision to go to New York, of all places.
Well, when I left where we worked, I left and worked at my second job at the time, because I was working 2 jobs because I wanted to save up money to go on vacation. And I wanted to go to Europe with like my best friends.
Yeah. And
I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do that one job like at the grocery store, because it's chill. But, I joined another 9 to 5 after that. And it was the same thing. I just was like not happy, and there wasn't enough time for me to like network with people and take photos all the time and do what I wanted to do. And when I got laid off from that job, I really had nothing holding me in Kansas City. And so at that same time, coincidentally, I had a text from a friend of mine who lived in New York, and her and her husband were asking me if I wanted to come house sit for them and watch their cats while they went to like Australia or something.
Wow.
For a whole month. And I was like,
wow.
Well, I don't have anything else to do, so why not? And I had like maybe a couple $100, and I was like, all right, let's just see what happens.
Wow. That was definitely a case of opportunity knocking.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I went, and a friend of mine from Kansas City had moved there, who I had never met. I just knew her from mutual friends.
Oh, okay.
The first day I landed in New York, she was like, we're going to hang out. I was like, okay, cool. So she took me to like this music venue and we watched a show and like got amazing food. And I was like, oh, dang. Okay. This is my first day.
You got bit by the bug.
Yeah. I was like, okay. Cause the people that asked me to house sit for them, I had been to New York previously, like 5 years before that. And I stayed at their house through Airbnb. And so that's how I knew them. And we just stayed in touch, over that 5 years periodically.
Wow.
And so I kind of knew the neighborhood and I kind of like knew my way around. And then, me and Katam, we hung out for like 7 days straight. And she was like, you should just move here. And she was a production assistant. So she took me to my first set. And she was like, yeah, just come to set. Like, it'll be cool. And she wasn't even working the set. We just kind of rolled up. And
you just roll up to a set?
We just rolled up. And it wasn't like a small set. It was a campaign for I don't want to say their name because I don't want to.
No, that's fine.
But it was a campaign for a bag company.
Okay.
And Michael B. Jordan was the talent. So that was the first like real set that I had ever been on. And I walked in and I was like, oh, this is special. I was like, this is sick. It
just took hold. Like they went from being a bug bite to just a full infection.
Yeah. And she was like, yeah, you get paid like at that time, the rate was so low. It was like $210 a day for like 12 hours of work.
Wow.
And I was like, to me, that was a lot of money because I didn't have a job. So I was like, all right, let's go.
Exactly.
And then I moved home for 2 months and I worked a bunch of odd jobs like painting buildings and cleaning houses because I just needed to save up money to go back to New York. And I worked a bunch of odd jobs. And 2 months later, I moved to New York and I paid 2 months of rent in this house in Bushwick that was, I mean, anybody who moves in New York will tell you your first apartment is
it's a shoebox with a sink.
Well, this was a house with like 8 people that lived in it.
Oh wow.
With no air conditioning in the middle of June. Rats, like, it wasn't cute. And so I paid rent for like 2 months and I was like, well, this is it. Katam gave me her Rolodex of people. So I just started cold calling and cold texting people to get a job. And like, luckily I did because, I only had a few $100 after paying rent to like live on. And yeah, so that's how it started. That's like the short version, I should say. Yeah.
That's crazy. Cause I mean, it's funny because when you hear people talk about, heading to the Big Apple to try to strike it big, they all have some type of story similar of, it being very tough. Cause it is when they say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. They're not kidding because it's tough, Yeah. But it's just still so heartening to hear it directly from someone talking about their experience, especially not just because I know you, but like that cold calling and sitting there with the rats who definitely got a job. You trying to find a job. The rats got a job. They got a job. And you're trying to find a job. And you're cold calling and you met somebody that just like kind of opened your eyes to this world that you decided you wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then it just made you want to fight for it.
Yeah. And like, while I was there house sitting, I was like, I don't really know anybody besides Katam. So I got on Hinge. And my partner, who I'm still with to this day, and we moved to LA together, was the first date that I went on. So I don't think I would have moved that fast had it not been like, oh, I met somebody that I really like.
Aww.
Yeah, he's the best. And yeah, so I think it would have taken me longer than 2 months, but I think that definitely was like another swift kick in the behind that was like, you need to work. And not that I couldn't live like authentically in Kansas City, but New York, I mean, for anybody who travels to New York, everybody is who they are, period, no matter what.
Period. Yeah.
And you see some crazy stuff on the streets, and no one pays anybody any attention.
It's just okay. That's what they're doing. That's fine. I'm still doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing. As long as those two paths don't cross, we good.
Yeah. So that was another reason too, for sure. And
we'll definitely talk more about community, because I know that that's a big part of it. And you've already started talking about how those pieces started putting together. But
Yeah.
I also want to talk about, to go back to your beginnings a little bit, in the vein of you being a fighter. You've been a fighter your entire life, like fresh out from a
Yeah.
baby. Talk to me about that, because I mean, surviving cancer and basically being a miracle child, like you've been at this.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, now that you say it like that, I don't ever think of it that way, because that's just been my experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was born with cancer and had the tumor removed when I was 8 months old. And for the longest, I was like labeled as the miracle baby at Children's Mercy in KC. Which to me, like, my parents and my family members were always like, they tell me how insane it was for them to go through that process. And me, I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
I mean, you were there, but you weren't cognizant of these
Yeah.
things happening and how it affected them in the time of
Right.
their lives after having a baby.
Right. Yeah. And then, after that, my parents, got divorced when I was like 13, and I was never at home. I was always running the streets, and yeah.
Little hood rat.
I
Just
was.
doing hood
I
rat
was.
things.
Yeah,
I just want to do hood rat things with my friends.
With my friends. That's it. And yeah, and then some stuff happened, and we were taken away from my mom and put with my dad, and then we moved to Colorado. And so it was always like I felt like I was always in fight or flight, where I had to also find my community, as you said, and also kind of mold my personality to be a chameleon in these different like groups of people. So I've always felt like it's fight or flight, and my body has always and my brain I've always just chosen fight. And so that, I think, was another reason, like, well, when I move to New York, I have to fight to be there, because that's what I want.
And that was the connection that I felt the strongest in knowing your story. I didn't even know about all the other little things that you had been through. I didn't know about, living in the house with a bunch of other people, and, how much money you had left over and things like that. Because on my end, what I saw was, you finding ways still to promote yourself. Going back to your production work, because we talked a little bit about the concert photography, which was a huge thing also, because you had some really awesome experiences with that. And it was one of those other things that kind of kept you going in between, gigs and stuff. And we've had other concert photographers on here too, and they have talked about that whole process of how inconsistent it can be with the pay and knowing what the rates are and things like that. But I think another thing that could be a little mystifying is production work. So explain to me exactly what being a PA is, and what type of stuff do you do? Like, what type of work are you going to be getting when you get into that?
Yeah. So production work it's not just one thing. Like PAs are the backbone of literally any production, from a small stills photo shoot to like huge TV shows or commercials. Production assistants and the production department in general, are the first ones there, and they are the last to leave. So if you're shooting for 11 hours, 12 hours, production was there at least an hour before that, and they're there at least an hour afterwards. So they work 14-hour days, multiple days in a row. And as a production assistant, like at least what I was doing was, either driving crew vans around. And it's different like in each city, right? Because in LA, everybody has cars, so they're going to whip around themselves. But in New York, it's either the train or a crew shuttle. And so I would drive a van around a lot of the time because no one liked driving vans in the city.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And I was like, I'll do it. I don't care. So it's like a lot of that, or, they also are like taking out the trash all the time and going on runs. So if Danielle is like, I'm the host of the show and I want a coffee, can somebody go give me one? Like they're going to do that, or they're helping out other departments where wardrobe is like, oh, I forgot to get this pair of shoes. Can you go get this pair of shoes?
Like a specific pair of shoes. And you got to figure out which store it's at. And wow.
Yeah. Well, and now that you say that, one time I had a shoot for a shoe brand, and we had to fly a person to San Francisco to pick up a pair of shoes because they weren't going to get shipped to us in time. Like, they do everything.
You had to fly a person to San Francisco. You had to make sure, that they would get back in time with the shoes for the shoe. Yeah. Because there's a million things that can go wrong with a flight.
Oh, yeah. And I think that you have to cut your teeth doing that to understand what they go through. And that's, I hope like my PAs understand how I feel about them, because I used to do what they do, and it's hard. And that's why I try to advocate for them as much as I can. So that's how it started.
That's so awesome. And as you've referred to, you've moved up in the ranks. So what type of stuff do you do now? Like, what are you in charge of now as a senior production?
Yeah. So I'm a senior producer at a boutique production company based in LA and New York. And the easiest way that I explain it is I do like all the logistics and all the budgeting for a production. So from like hiring the crew to getting the catering to getting the camera equipment, to like having conversations with agents and models and kind of do everything. Really.
It
and
sounds like
creatively like lead the meetings and liaise between, the brands or the agencies and the creative partners that we work with, where it's like, oh, we want to talk to the wardrobe stylists and here are our brand guidelines. So make sure that the wardrobe brief, takes into account the brand guidelines so that we're representing the brand correctly. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It sounds like a lot of intricacies. And to think that this all started with a Rolodex.
Yeah. Yeah, I literally...
That's wild.
Yeah. I literally owe my entire career to Katam. Like, so shouts out Katam.
Shout out, for real.
Is an amazing director. She's the best.
That's crazy. And now touching back to community, right?
Yeah.
Started with that one person, that one friend who said, hey, I see that you want to get into this. Here's the Rolodex, which is just like giving somebody a lump of gold, but you can't do anything with a lump of gold unless you make a move. And so you made moves. Talk to me about the people that you've connected with since being there that have gotten you the opportunities that you've had, because you've worked with a lot of big names. You know what I'm saying? And you progressively have been moving up into and being used again by certain celebrities. Like, they want more. They ask for you again.
I've been very, very fortunate and very lucky to be in that position. And I think it also comes down to like how I grew up and having to blend in to these certain groups and learn how to connect with different people, not even, you know, like socially, but like understanding where each person comes from.
Yeah.
And just being able to find one common thing to talk to them about, because if they have a good experience with you, they will remember that. And if they have one bad experience with you, that will be the only thing that they remember.
Bad news will travel faster than good news any day of the week and twice on
Yep.
Sundays.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, really, and that's something that I focus on now in like my day-to-day job, is like taking care of people that took the same way that people took care of me when I was like a PA, where it's like advocating for them, you know, being open to like feedback, because no one is perfect. So I feel like we all need to be learning from each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that is why I keep getting called back to do certain things with artists. And a lot of that comes from like the creatives that I work with, because once you find out how certain people work,
Mm-hmm.
and you recognize that, they really trust you to handle things on their behalf.
Because you take care of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, I can trust you with my life, essentially. So
Yeah, they are.
yeah, I'm very grateful. And I, yeah, like even this morning, I was like, I can't believe this is my life now. Like compared, like 5 years ago,
That is so
when I moved to New
cool.
York, I would have never expected it. But at the same time, am I surprised? No, because I always knew that I would do cool things in my life.
You put it and you put in the work for it. It wasn't just that you sat back and said, "Oh, I imagine all of these things for myself. I
Yeah.
imagine that I'm the main character and I'm going to do all these things." You worked for it,
Yeah.
and the things about you and your personality and being able to, like you said, connect with people and being able to figure out, what is it that I want to show them that will make them remember me,
Yeah.
and just being kind, which is not something you can really front. You can use a lot of things you can fake, but you can't fake being kind. You can't fake being a
Yeah.
good-hearted person.
Well, and a lot of the in the industry, there's a lot of unkind people.
Yeah, I imagine that you probably run into quite a few,
Yep.
and especially in high pressure situations. Like I was reading that there was one situation where you guys had to pull together production in 3 days,
Yeah.
and it was for somebody pretty big. Like I'm pretty sure it was a lot of pressure.
Yeah. It's a lot, because they depend on this content or whatever to either sell records or promote a tour or promote a brand and a new business. And so, they are feeling a lot of pressure, and it kind of will trickle down. But production can't feel that same way, because then your crew feels it,
Mm.
and then it starts to be messy, and you really have to be like, okay, cool, we have X, Y, and Z to do, we have to get it done, period. Have the most chill attitude about it. And of course problems arise and stuff, but one of the big things as a producer is like, we have to solve problems. Like, you can't complain about it,
And you can't be part of the problem.
period.
Yeah, that's really I think that's really important what you just said. Not only are these people entrusting you with their lives in this production, because you are the core of what's making everything go. But when things go wrong and people, fail to keep their cool, which people are going to do in a high pressure environment, you are still charged on top of everything else to maintain it. You have
Yeah.
to also maintain the energy
Yeah.
and keep the level. You control the temperature of the entire production.
Yeah. I mean, and I just experienced it recently too, because I mean, as you know, my dad passed away like in February, and
Yeah.
we were on set shooting a motorcycle commercial, and I had to step in. I don't want to like get into it, but I had to step in because some stuff was happening and take over the production and like be with the agency because they really trusted me. And you know, that morning before we shot, my stepmom called me. I was like, "We have to take your dad off life support." And I was like, "Okay, like, well, I can't leave because all these people need me. There's only my dad's not going to go anywhere, you know. So it's like I have to be here and take care of this because there's 100 people that also need to be taken care of." So I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to leave. Like, we have to get the job done." So
It's really important that you said that, because I don't think when a lot of people think about wanting to have these types of positions where they're running everything, they don't think about those types of things that can happen as well. Because life is still going to keep lifing.
Yep.
And you still have a job to do.
Yep.
You know, when they say the show must go on, that's not saying it in a callous way. That's like, I am charged with having to figure out what needs to happen next. Like, that's my job. That's what I have to do.
It is my job. And so I'm like, you know, you can't let other people feel pressure from somebody in charge, because then it's going to be like, it's, you know, it trickles down and everybody feels.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I've had so much fun talking to you about these things that like we just didn't really get a chance to converse about. And I remember when you were like, "I'm leaving," because I was there at your going away party, one of the several that you had.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, man, that is just so awesome that you made a decision to literally bet on yourself, not knowing what was going to be on the other side, but knowing that whatever it was, you were going to be willing to work for it. And that's just so inspirational. It was very inspirational to me.
Thank you.
It was one of the things in the back of my mind when I decided to go ahead and say yes to this and to talk to other independent artists and creatives about their journey and, you know, about their fight.
Yeah.
I just think that's so amazing. And so I'm so proud of you. I tell you that all the time, but I really, really mean it. I'm so proud of you. And I thank you so much for spending your time with me today and sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you. I mean, and I think this goes without saying, but like, you were also like a catalyst for me to continue doing that stuff in Kansas City and being in that, you know, that artist, like just that mindset. So I thank you and appreciate you for that.
Don't make me cry. I can't remember whether or not I put on waterproof stuff today. But thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see what's next because, you know, I follow you. Let everybody else know where they can follow you so that they can keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, just Instagram is fine.
It's fine, just my Instagram.
It's just IG at Lucas Carpenter with 2 underscores after my last name.
Lucas Carpenter with 2 underscores after the last name.
Yep.
Hey, thank you again. I can't thank you enough for joining me. We'll have to chop it up and everybody will see all the big things that you're doing, and we'll have to have you back to talk about what other things you've been up to.
Let's do it.
All right. If you had as much fun as we did, make sure that you like, you comment, and you subscribe. This was an amazing season finale episode. And just make sure that you check out the description box below for the link that Lucas gave for his Instagram so you can keep up with him. New episodes of Getting Close Up air bi-weekly on Fridays. And make sure also to tune in to GCU Review, where me and Dee give you the tea on what's hot and what's not. We're a bunch of fun. You already know what it is. Thank you guys for joining me. You're the best part of all of this. And I'll see you again soon for another Close Up. I'll be checking for you. Bye.